Laura Ingraham is, where have all the good men gone, and where are all the gods? Where's the street white Hercules? All right, now there's a reason why Laura Ingraham is sort of sensitive about the lack of real men in America. You have to understand, she works at Fox News, and all she sees all day are the likes of Sean Hannity and Kilmeade and Ducey and Tucker Carlson, and you can understand how she would think that the rest of the world's manliness has been sucked away. Everyone around her looks like that. I mean, how do you not lose your hope for humanity, much less masculinity? You know what I mean? And yes, and it is Black Sleeveless Shirt Day for the women of Fox News, apparently. I don't know why. So they all get a memo or something. Everyone looked like a BDSM butcher. What's the note today? All the women hosts have to look like they work in a slaughterhouse that gives hand jobs to Wall Street tycoons. Yeah, it's like Casual Friday, only horrifying. Maybe it's a Halloween thing. We'll just leave it at that. Wear black, it's Halloween. So this is, where have all the men gone? And again, how do you not feel that way if you work at Fox News and you see the men around you at Fox News all the time? You're obviously going to draw that conclusion that manhood is gone, that every man is a whingy, weak, broken specter of what manhood used to be, flailing at their decaying masculinity with sort of pointless acts of toxic masculinity to just prove their worth. And it's got to be pathetic, and you got to notice it all the time when they're sitting right next to you in the makeup chair. Right, Laura? All right, so this says, missing men, attributes, protects, provides, and defends without being aggressive or violent. Suddenly, I don't feel seen, because that's exactly what I do. Oh, it's the without being aggressive or violent. I see. So you're basically, Laura, if Dan Bongino has been spending too much time at the station, blink once for yes and Sieg Heil for no. Right.
Men gone. That's the focus of tonight's angle.
Hold on. Hold on.
Where have all the men gone? That's the focus of tonight's angle.
Somebody's not having much luck on the Tinder.
Now, once
I do not have to go to LA tonight. I have to go to LA tomorrow night.
Related to women's studies, classrooms, and college campuses, the phrase toxic masculinity entered our cultural vernacular a few years ago. Now, this was around the time that the American Psychological Association jumped in to warn that males who socialize to conform to traditional masculinity ideology are often negatively affected in terms of mental and physical health. Well, the argument is that boys are conditioned to be tough and not show weakness. That's a bad thing, I guess. And then by suppressing boys' feelings, their emotions, then they're likely to be more prone to violence or aggression, more likely to end up in prison or in trouble at school.
Well, statistically, they are.
And people who work in gender studies programs, they're dead set against the old confining rules of masculinity. And you'll see this in a highly produced Hollywood conversation.
I think there's a model about being
a highly produced Hollywood thing from Wayfarer Studios on YouTube. By the way, it's a conversation between this dude. Hold on.
Conversation.
The dude they show. Yeah, there's a conversation between a dude with no shoulders who's supposed to exemplify the sort of narrow Antifa style, physically weaker, like vegan man. This is a conversation between vegan man.
I think there's a model
and our fill-in version of Alan Dershowitz. Okay, but here we go.
About being a real man in America. And I think
this is Dr. Michael Kimmel, expert on men and masculinity. Citation needed.
Sometimes that model is that more sort of stoic, hard, tough, etc. My friend
I feel seen.
Gorman, who used to be a professional football player, says that he remembers his father.
Don't sip your tea with your little coin bracelet on and give him some googly eyes. Like, hello. While he's trying to talk to you about how men used to be tough. I'm sorry, my throat's dry all of a sudden. Yeah, this is totally a setup. This is they hunted the entire internet to find soy boy and old guy discussing things they don't want to be.
Just saying to him, be a man. Man up. Toughen up. Don't be a girl.
Well, he can't be a girl, not in that sense. And by the way, man up is different from toxic masculinity in that regard. Like this is just fighting against old vernaculars. But let's see where they take it from. Don't be a girl. Really? Is that what he said? Man up. Don't be a girl. That's how we were all raised. Did we just skip the 80s and fucking 90s? Honest to God. Like hold on. This idea that somehow men are wussified because we no longer talk to each other like post-World War II or in the middle of a foxhole in World War II all the goddamn time, or that because you watched Mad Men a few years ago that's how shit has been run. The entirety of the 80s, every guy I knew was brought up to respect women and largely and to be okay with showing emotion. The amount of cross-dressing by straight guys for art's sake in the 70s is well documented. The 90s, grunge, half of it was the ability to cry over the relationship with your fucking dad.
This is how far we've fallen in America. Telling a boy not to be a girl, I guess, is now...
It's now what?
Considered abusive. We're in an upside-down world, my friends, and I think more people now see...
Well, no. Here's an idea. Maybe there's a better way to convey what it means to be a man without the denigration of women being part of the process. But then that wouldn't feed into the narrative.
Through the attempt that they're making to kind of wrap their attacks on traditional gender roles around an anti-bullying campaign. Well, that's absurd because real men do not bully, we know that. Real men don't beat their wives, we know that. Real men don't hurt animals or children, we know that. All these...
Apparently you fucking don't, because I've been at Fox News and overheard Sean Hannity talking to his wife. There's no fucking way you weren't there at some point hearing that shit.
People agree on that.
No, she said real men aren't bullies. That's what you're talking about. Well, we're not talking about real men in this regard. We're talking about toxic masculinity, not tonic masculinity.
And by the way, long before the phrase gender fluid popped up, good parents told their sons both to be a man and to be courageous, valiant, compassionate. Now, I heard my friend's father say, stop whining and be a man. Like he was complaining about something. He said it a lot, actually. It didn't hurt my buddy one bit. He's a great dad today. But today, the radical left...
Yeah, they're not talking about those situations. They're talking about the extremities of those circumstances. If you'll notice, that dad you were talking about said, be a man, which was code for be courageous. In that family, that's what manliness meant. So you define what manliness means, and then you ask your son to live up to that standard as a man. That's not wrong unless the standard that you're setting up of what constitutes manliness is shitting on women, for example. Like the example you just showed where the guy goes, don't be a girl. Being a man is not the opposite of being a woman or being a girl. The good parts of being a man aren't created or don't exist in that context in terms of driving men to be better in themselves as oppositional to what women are. That's the problem. And if you'll notice in her example, she's giving an example of a allegedly, and if you flesh it out, the understanding is that supposedly that guy's a good guy. And when he said be a man to his son, the idea was be the best it is to be male in this expression. That's what it means, because he's lined up all those other factors to, that would make sense in that context. There's no underlying be a man, which means don't be like your sister or your mother because they're weak and stupid and yada yada. And that is two distinct differences. I know I'm splitting hairs here, but there's two distinct differences between the clip she showed and what this other dude said, and they are differentiated.
One goal in mind. It's to destroy the underpinnings of the nuclear family by targeting the distinct parental roles that fathers and mothers play. Ideally, come on, we all know this, it's better for children to be raised.
It's all a big plot to make men do laundry. God damn it.
A mother and a father who are present and involved. Now, we also all know that single moms and dads do their best, but it's much harder. God bless them all. And I say this as a single mom myself. Yet some...
You really? Really? You're single? That shocks me. I don't know why someone wouldn't stick around. You seem so agreeable and such a good partner. Like someone that you'd want to be around all the time. I don't know why in the world. And you haven't found someone else to move in. That's... As a single mom... Do you play the field a bunch? I'm curious now.
Now, this idea of the traditional roles, it's threatening to the radicals who see the traditional family, especially traditionally minded men, as an impediment to the ultimate goal of the left of socialism and rewriting of American history.
Huh? Yeah, if it wasn't for the manly man there to punch these Marxists in their fucking face, the whole country's gonna fall apart.
Now, remember, Black Lives Matter had the disruption of the nuclear family as one of its main goals.
The company, the group she's talking about, not people who believe Black Lives Matter and use the hashtag to show that they're concerned about black men's lives taken by the police. What she means is the organization Black Lives Matter, because they put that in their bylaws, essentially. We'll get to that.
Now,
and by the way, that'll
industry
forever be
joined the
used.
anti-family, anti-masculinity crusade long ago. Intelligent.
Oh, you mean with things like Queer as Folk? Is that where you're going?
Television and films, male protagonists are often portrayed as kind of goofy, helpless, helpless saps or gender fluid geniuses.
From the dance class to the ballroom. Oh! No touching! The battle line has been drawn! Yes!
This is from Pose on Touchstone Television. Yeah, this is pretty much how dads are portrayed in film nowadays. Yeah.
Work, darling! I made a It's only...
Yeah, that's meant to be they are the butt of that joke, dipshit. Did you see that? Mel Gibson's in that fucking movie. Look, there's Mark Wahlberg, and that's Mel Gibson. And the other two meet, and the joke is, they're the punchline. This is actually a movie that codifies what she's fucking talking about. See? That's fucking Mel Gibson. And he's like, look, and the whole joke is they cut off, of course.
It's only been since Thanksgiving, but it feels like forever.
Newsflash.
See? They're the joke. That actually is the opposite of what she's saying. And it's a comedy. It's meant to be absurd. It's fucking Will Ferrell. God
Hollywood.
Damn.
Women want...
Hold on. One second. One second, if I may. Hollywood. Let me bring up something real quick, if I could. Here you go. You guys get to see inside what Stuff recommends for me. on my Netflix. Here you go. So I love Cat Williams. I'm sorry. And so I just got on a kick lately, and now it's just recommending it. So Mindhunter. You've watched Mindhunter, right? Don't play it. So Mindhunter, the two protagonists, the two male protagonists especially, one is married with a kid and has a relationship, and he's just a chain smoking, beer drinking, barbecue FBI dude who's, kind of a take no shit guy. And the other one is single and having sex with a girl who's in college, and trying to maintain a relationship while he's traveling all over the fucking place. Like, okay, Cat Williams, Criminal Minds. This is the whole. I guess this is wussification. Let's see. Blacklist. Obviously, that's. Is he your dad or isn't he? But he's probably a murderer or something like this. I didn't watch Halston. Let's see. What's it? I see something that's like new. Here's all the Chappelle ones, yeah, and Sebastian Maniscalco, and there's Bill Burr. Let's see. These are Army of Thieves is new, and this is, by the way, this whole thing.
We've been watching you.
Is one of those like try to check all the boxes diversity movies, and it's so ham-handed. Again, Hollywood, I love you, and I appreciate what you're trying to do. Show, don't tell. And if you can't show, don't tell, don't sell. That's how you convey a story. So much sales, not enough story. Okay, there's Squid Game, Maid, Hypnotic, Lock and Key, King Arthur, which of course is, what does that have to do with I can't click on anything without this thing showing up, and I know I'm going to get a hit or something. The Sinner, this is like him form a relationship. He's trying to have a relationship, and there's all these cops. Like, this is not and Jesus Christ, the number of like Olympus Has Fallen, Taken kind of movies that's out there is crazy. I'm not pimping Netflix. I'm just pulling it up to show movies and what's out there right now. But in the vast majority of stories are not an example of what she gave, which is Daddy's Home 2. Is my point. All right, here we go.
Men to be men. Obviously, they also want men to be honest and kind and sacrificial and humble as well. But as an old friend used to say, most women I know, even women who work outside the home, prefer a man who will protect, provide, and defend. And we don't want men who will elbow us out of the way to primp in the mirror, or men whose idea of a fun afternoon is getting a mani-pedi and a facial. No. Remember the man?
First of all, I don't know who the fuck that guy is, but there's no way he's elbowing anyone out of the way. And secondly, he's not getting a mani-pedi and a facial. And if he is, it's because he's not looking for a woman who works outside the home in that regard. The other thing, too, is maybe your weird rules about how men should behave is why you're alone.
The way the Obama people used in ads to push Obamacare? Well, even Morning Joe all those years ago couldn't stop laughing at him.
This guy
Which is funny.
Jim Van Dyke, it looks like he's out of a bad Vampire Weekend video.
Of course, all the Pajama Boy fans are totally shocked that young men are flocking to non-effeminate men like Jordan Peterson, who wrote 12 Rules for Life. And they're especially furious.
By the way, non-effeminate men. He's a college professor. He doesn't bench press or lift weights or anything. What the fuck are you talking about? He basically, this is a bunch of conservative young men trying to reparent themselves because their dads were such pricks or were non-existent. I have that book. Read that. That book's not like be a fucking man at all. I have a lot of books, even stuff I don't agree with. Like you guys seen my reading list. It's full of all kinds of awful. But the point is, at least pull out Bongino.
Millions are tuning in to listen to manly men like Joe Rogan.
Toxic masculinity, that's a hilarious expression, because you need to thank toxic masculinity for all the bridges, all the all the jets, all the rockets, all this toxic masculinity. If you break...
Well, he's true. Werner von Braun, as men go, especially when he was working for the Nazis, was great with rockets, but was kind of involved in what some would refer to as an organization of toxic men. Werner von Braun.
And all the things that men have invented, and all these toxic men have prevented like you from being murdered in war and protected the country, and all the different things that you could attribute to toxic masculinity. Most of it's positive.
That's why.
Right, but that's not the toxic masculinity part, and it's the inability to make the differentiation that we're talking about. And even she makes a differentiation between the two, and I would argue that those are the things you're talking about is tonic masculinity, is the true expression of masculinity. Nothing wrong with it. Nothing at all.
Listen to him. Now, the fact is, the natural instinct of most men is to protect.
And by the way, nobody is like on the Rogan side is listening to him because of the masculine nature of what he's saying. Because Jordan Peterson says often the same things and is not masculine at all. As a matter of fact, he got very ill because of an autoimmune disorder or something like that. Nearly died, wasted away, super skinny right now. He's on a singular meat only diet or something like that. Literally because he's allergic to almost everything else. There's nothing about it like, I only listen to Rogan's shit because he's thick. Like, nobody thinks that. He draws some audience because he does the MMA stuff, and he draws some of that audience over there. But a vast majority of his audience was on hand before that shit.
Women, but that's slowly being beaten out of them by angry feminists or overly feminine men who love submissive types. This seems especially to be the case in more liberal...
They do what now? I'm sorry, overly feminine men who like submissive types are beating the masculinity out of other men who are truly masculine, but are having that driven out of them by overly feminine. What the fuck are you talking about?
Areas. And the consequences are horrifying. Now, something that happened in a Manhattan subway car when a woman told a perturbed African-American man to take a chill pill. Watch.
Say the word chill pill.
Oh. Yes. Yo, you wildin'. She a female. What?
Mind your business. Say it.
That's OD.
Well, that went on and on, but notice what didn't happen.
Notice what didn't happen. He punched her in the face and she didn't even go down. You're right. Men have lost their masculinity. A dude that size tags a woman holding a purse right in the off button, right in the knockout zone, and she just was like, she just stands there. Holy shit! Get thee to a gym, young man. What the fuck? How is this indicative of masculine feminine relationships? And Christ,
not a single man on that train.
It plays the same thing again. And by the way, not a single man on that train did what?
Intervened.
Yeah.
A more shocking incident took place in Philly last week when a woman was...
And this is because men have been feminized, is the theory.
Raped on the L train with other passengers aboard. Not a single one did anything to help her. And earlier this week in San Francisco, it was a young woman who chased down a man who pushed an elderly Asian lady to the ground. When the woman confronted the assailant, she was stabbed 3 times. Where were the men?
Well, apparently they were trying not to get stabbed or something. Maybe they were back helping the Asian lady and figuring the cops would get that person.
Frankly, the mass feminization of men should trouble women the most. The victims in all those heinous attacks were women who were over...
Yes, because, statistically, men are more often to be harmed and killed by other men, but we'll just show 3 videos in a row and assume that that's what this is all about.
Powered by bad men. And because the cultural elites and institutions...
The Philly story is a lie? I wouldn't doubt it, but I'll look into it. Yes, hold on one second. Hold on. Get out of here. Collapse. Why accounts of Philadelphia train passengers not intervening in a rape spread. Police narrative of people watching a man rape a woman was not true, but it still ran wild in the press, similar to a 1964 murder that prompted the bystander effect. The news was horrifying, a parable of inhumanity so grim that it was destined to go viral. 2 weeks ago, police said passengers on Philadelphia's elevated train watched a man rape a woman and did not intervene, and that some writers might have even recorded the October attack with their cell phones. Those onlookers did not call for help during the attack. The only person who dialed 911 was an off-duty transit worker, police alleged. I'm appalled by those who did nothing to help this woman. Burns said the passenger stood idly by, might even face criminal charges. Transit authorities made similar statements, but it now seems the story was not entirely accurate. In fact, the story is far more complex, revealing not only a brutal crime, but how a mistaken narrative ran wild in the press. At the same time, the appalling rape does reveal social problems in America, but they center around crime, the pandemic, and policing, not the baleful influence of social media. Portrayal of bystanders. The Delaware County District Attorney, whose office has prosecuted a case alleged rapist Fiston Nagoy, said this portrayal of bystanders callously videoing the crime was simply not true. The prosecutor, Jack Stolstimer, said it was wrong for authorities and media to advance the narrative that people were callously sitting there filming and didn't act, calling it misinformation. While Nagoy's alleged interaction with the victim took place over a 40-minute period, starting with unwanted talking, then groping, the rape lasted about 6 minutes. Other riders were not on the train for the entire duration of the interaction and might not have known what was happening. Surveillance video from the train revealed two passengers raised their phones toward the assault and that one of them provided their video to authorities. The dramatic turn of events was raised a question about the original because they thought sex was happening, not rape, and yada yada. Explanations are multifaceted nuances, ranging from police accountability to broad societal fears, longstanding concerns over public safety. But one definitive starting point is that the Kitty Genovese case, that's the woman who was supposedly stabbed, nobody did anything, which turned out not to be true. Many years later, it emerged that Times' description of bystanders was incorrect. Far fewer people had actually witnessed her murder than was reported, and some did contact authorities. By the way, almost everyone, and the people who didn't have a phone. One of Genovese's neighbors went out to help her, cradling the dying 28-year-old while waiting for paramedics. Most glaringly, an ambulance came to the scene precisely because neighbors had called for help. That's the old story of this. In 90% of cases where there were violent crimes where there were bystanders, 90% of those cases, bystanders did intervene. People are not callous monsters who walk the fuck away. But yeah, there you go. Thanks for pointing that out, guys. Easy to look up. I'm sure Laura just didn't have time.
Have spent years villainizing masculinity. There were no good men willing to step in to save them. And that's the angle.
Hey, Sean Hannity.
That's it? That's your whole fucking sales pitch? Man, I have never seen anybody write an opening to their show straight from their Tinder goodbyes. They should have called this video, Laura Ingraham is tired of getting ghosted. Yeah, this is a bunch of, and by the way, it's probably Biden's fault. It has to be.